Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider, sir, getting ready to do countdown episode number 98, fans. That's right, only two more episodes left into the big 100. Yes, that's right, 100 is coming up very shortly. But before we get to those next two countdowns, we're going to do episode number 8. We have a total of 18 books to talk about today. A lot of books out there has to deal with Convergence and then some of the other stuff as well. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with the worst pick of the week. And number 18 for me was Convergence Swamp Thing, issue number 1. I just wanted to see what this issue had to bring to the table with the whole dome situation. And basically, this was Alec Holland, where you get to see kind of a little origin tale, which I appreciated here, with the book and telling you how he kind of became Swamp Thing, which I appreciated. But then, once the dome goes up and they're in Gotham or whatever it is, the next thing you see is that he's stuck there with Abigail and he can't go anywhere. And throughout the entire issue, all you see them is just what seems to be in one setting, in one spot, in the swamp, the whole entire thing. He can't live, he can't connect to the green, blah, 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 blah. It was the same old repetitious thing over and over again. I'm just like, how many more times in this book can I see the Swamp Thing not being connected to the green? It was like one of the most frustrating things I could have ever read in a comic book. I'm just like, we couldn't come up with any better story than this because, yeah, he doesn't have his power. And this was like the entire issue. It was just like, look, even all the way through the end, he's like, I'm losing my strength. Abigail has to go through resources. She works at a flower shop. She steals fertilizer. And then at the end of it, you wind up seeing Alec Holland or the Swamp Thing wind up reviving his power. And then he goes against these bat creatures. And I'm just like, yeah, I won't be reading issue 2. Yeah. Just as a note, probably Convergence going forward, I'm only going to buy the actual main event and probably read the copies digitally of whatever ones I feel are worthy because on Comic Frontline I'm able to read some of these books for free, so I'll probably read them that way instead of having the physical copy. I love having physical copies more. I feel more connected with the book that way, but if a book is just not good, I'm just not going to read it. So, and I feel that's what Convergence is really doing for me. I'm not enjoying it whatsoever. And I haven't really, for me not to buy a book, the book's got to be pretty bad. So after reading Swamp Thing, I gave that one 2 stars. All right, so moving forward, going on to number 17. This was Convergence Adventures of Superman. Now, some of you guys might like this. This has to do with Kara and Superman. And it just, they go through, basically, they're in the Phantom Zone. And we get to see everything that they're going through together in this Phantom Zone. And they wind up fighting all these other Supermen or whatnot. And I just thought, for me, I just thought it was boring. I just didn't enjoy it. Other people that are Superman fans might enjoy it, but I just didn't like it. The artwork was okay, but again, I was just bored by it. I just feel like, we keep on one little plot line for this entire first issue, and nothing really happens. There's no real great setup for the next issue. This part of the book was pretty good. I like seeing this, just all the different timelines on that page. But overall, same thing. This book was okay for me. This stuff is just not grasping me. Mainly because, again, I don't have a connect to it. And so this was like pre-crisis. I think this was the timeline that was going on. So after reading Convergence, The Adventures of Superman, I gave this one, same thing, 2 stars. I was disconnected, bored, tired of reading the same old thing. All right, next, going on to number 16. Number 16 was the Avengers Operation Hydra number 1. I don't know really what I was thinking when I bought this book. I don't know if I didn't know it was, well, I thought it was $5. I guess it is only $4. Maybe at first I thought it was $5, and I was like, oh no. And then I saw it was $4. I'm like, okay, for $4, maybe I'll give it a try. The movie's coming out, everyone's hyped up about it. This looked like an Avengers tale that was kind of more geared towards the movie. And, so I looked at the artwork and I was like, it's okay. I'm like, it's good. It's got good colors in there. And basically when I read this, I felt like I was reading like some after school special, because it's basically about Hawkeye in this issue. And he's, going, I got to be on my toes. He's like, or I'll get kicked off. He's like, I'm not like Iron Man. I'm not smart like him. I don't have the tech like him. I'm not like the Hulk. I'm not like Thor. I'm not like Captain America. And, he finds himself going against in this mission with everybody, and he has to prove himself. And, with a couple of good splash pages in here, I thought it was okay, but it was nothing fantastic. And by the time you get to this little battle sequence in here, it proves that Hawkeye was the one that came on top, and it's like almost like a G.I. Joe message where it's like, knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe, it's just like, yeah, I proved I belong in part of the Avengers. He gives a little wink, and he looks like he's like, I hold my spot here. So then what happens at the end of this one is, if you never read Avengers issue number 16, well, you get a little reprint in the back. So in case you don't have the money to buy the older copy, you can read everything that goes on along here. And in this particular issue, has to deal with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So that's the significance why they put this issue in here. But you can see it's written by Stan Lee, and the art is done by Jack Kirby and things like that. So if you have a lot of nostalgic, feel, or nostalgic, if you're really nostalgic, you're going to really enjoy this particular issue. You can see how different comics were written back in the day, how much dialogue there is. I mean, it takes up a whole panel box with some of the dialogue that is being discussed, so crazy stuff in there. But again, if you like the real older stuff, Silver Age stuff, then you're going to probably like this portion of the issue. So, but when you rate a book, I feel like I rate it for the overall story, because that's what I got it for. And I rated this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I really think it wasn't a really in-depth story whatsoever. So I feel that you can pass on this probably. It's just not worth the money for me. All right, so going to number 15 now. Number 15, it's going on to Convergence New Teen Titans issue number 1. Here we get to see Starfire, Nightwing. You get to see Donna Troy, and you get to see Beast Boy's in here with Cyborg. First of all, I don't like the way Cyborg's dressed in the old days. He's kind of looks like he's cross-dressing in a way, and I just looks like he just looks weird, I'm the new 52 type of DC guy. That's all I've really read. So it's like I'm used to Cyborg being more heavily armored, not like more like just a costume. And that's the way it looks for me. So I just don't like the way that is here. Once again, you get to see Starfire in this issue. She's, she portrays a message about how she's given in before, and she doesn't want to be kept a slave, and she feels like she's been a slave. She couldn't do anything. You have Nightwing trying to, keep her sanity here, and, her teammates are trying to, Nightwing's teammates are trying to say, when Starfire is good, she's really good, but when she's bad, she can be really bad there too. Again, overall in this issue with this Convergence stuff is that they go against what is called the Doom Patrol, but it's a Doom Patrol from a different timeline, and these guys don't recognize this version of the Doom Patrol whatsoever. And then what happens by the time you get to this end of this issue, you wind up seeing that one of their own goes to Nightwing and says, I have some information for you. So, and that's basically what it is. That's the way it ends. Same thing. Not really entertained. I don't really care about these versions of the Teen Titans right now, because I'm not going to see them again. Like, I have a feeling that we're reliving all these characters' history, and it's just like, but who cares? Because I'm never going to see them again. Like, when you look at the solicits for the new DC books, none of these characters are in here. So why am I really investing in all this anyway? I thought these would be much cooler stories. I thought it would revolve around the event a little bit more. I don't know. I just feel, again, a complete disconnect with all this. So after reading this one, I gave Titans 3 out of 5 stars. Again, if you're a fan of the Titans, you might really enjoy this. But I've been getting a lot of information from people just saying it's just repetitious. And what can these comics bring different each week? And we're in the third week, and it's like you're reading the same comic over and over. All right. So next we're moving on to number 14, and number 14 is, well, you guessed it, Convergence Justice League of America. I think this one was one of the better ones, and that's not saying much because of the artwork. I like the artwork in this book. I thought it was really cool. I see Elongated Man in this particular issue here, and and I just loved how these guys were a bunch of ragtags, and they were just about to get back together here. And right when they were getting together and starting the training and get their team together, we wind up finding out that the dome went up. So they never really got started to begin with, so they're a little bit rusty. So I like that. And Martian Manhunter was in this book, and I like the artwork at certain times in this particular issue too. It's just like when you get to see some magic and some psychic stuff. It was pretty well drawn. They don't really know when to use these cool colors in the book and whatnot, but awesome facial expressions in here too. So I really love looking at this book. And then you get to see them go against this other version of this Secret Six. And I was just like, what's going on here? And I'm like, this is insane right there. So interesting stuff that this book had. Again, will I be buying it going forward? Probably not. But it was an interesting read, and I like the way Vibe looked on this last page right here. Again, the colors were done very well. Just different type of coloring that I haven't seen in a comic. You get nice drawings, and then you get this sorcery feel or psychedelic feel. It's like three-dimensional. Really neat, though. I like that part of it. So it was okay. So after reading this one, I gave this book, what was it, a 3 stars as well. So it was okay. All right. Here we go. Next book. We lead it off into number 13, and number 13 is actual Convergence, issue number 3. Again, for me, this book was okay. It's not this mind-blowing event that just is like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm just like, wow, it's so big, it's okay. You get the Earth 2 heroes here. They're trying to defeat Telos's drones, and you get to see more fighting. I just feel like the fighting in here is just filler. It's just pointless to kind of get the book being pushed and go through with it. And as I read it, we get to see, interesting. There are some interesting things in here. First of all, you got Telos, who goes to Kandor, and he destroys all the Kandorians in here because they won't work with him. So he destroys them, and he calls them foolish. So we get that. Then you get this flying Batmobile, and it destroys all these drones. So I was like, okay, well, that's more filler. And then as the issue progresses, we get to see that they meet this character. His name is Deimos or Demios or whatever it is, and he takes him to a different part of this planet, and that's what he does. And Thomas Wayne and Dick Grayson wind up having to stay behind, and they have to protect, give the others time because they feel like they've been followed by bad guys. They couldn't recruit good guys to help them because no one was there, but somehow the bad guys followed them. And when it comes down to it, you find out that you had Pig and Joker and everybody else winds up following them. The issue jumped around a lot, and I found myself being confused at certain points here. Again, I don't have the history from this DC universe to figure out some of these characters here, and I felt like they really relied you and expected you to know who these characters were. Now, they created the New 52 for a new reader, but I guess when they made this event, they never thought about the new reader on feeling if they were going to be, you lost or not. So, and I just felt that was a little frustrating. But again, you get to see all the Gotham, bad guys here, and you got Pig and Riddler and whatnot. And they go and they start fighting Dick Grayson, and they wind up fighting Thomas Wayne. Just when things all seem bleak, Thomas Wayne blows himself up. Yeah, that's right. That's what happens here. He blows himself up, and let's just say he dies, and Grayson gets shot in the side, and it looks like he's paralyzed. And then right when he's just about to get killed by the Joker, well, Telos winds up grabbing him and snapping his neck. Why? We'll see. So we'll see what happens with this. But I felt like so far this event is a Batman event or an Earth 2 event. But the past two issues, we really focused heavily on Thomas Wayne, and we focused on Grayson. And this has been a lot about Grayson too. So what's going to happen in this whole event? It'll be interesting to see how it ends and how it affects the universe. But I don't. To me, it's not much of an event. I don't know. I got a totally different vibe from issue 0 than I do from issues 1, 2, and 3 on this event. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 3.25. The artwork is what brings it up at quarter point alone. It's a great book to look at. All right. Next, we're going off to number 12, and number 12 is The Flash. Convergence. Yeah, you can see I'm talking a lot about Convergence, and I've been so negative about it. And I hate being so negative about comics, but I feel that if you want your readers to spend money and you have all these books out here, I feel that you need really good quality stories. And I would have rather seen this maybe done a little bit longer and come out with maybe like 3 or 4 issue stories that could have been a little bit more in depth, instead of being so, like, again, that cookie cutter format of what's going on. Everyone's learned to accept that the dome was up. It's just like, we just deal with it. We live our lives like this, and in this issue, just like the Wally West issue, we see Barry Allen dealing that the dome is up, and he doesn't have his powers, and he doesn't. He can't run and whatnot. He's accepted the fact that it is. He realizes he can't run faster than a girl. Where in the other Wally West one, you saw Wally running against a biker. So it's very similar. You get to see him doing his work at the police station or whatnot. He debates the whole situation with Iris. If he has another girl that feels that she likes him and he likes her, but he always keeps Iris in the back of his head, and he's just like, I have to keep her there. He's like, because I feel that there's always hope, maybe I'll see her again. So as the issue progresses, you get to see them, him and Bruce Wayne wind up meeting with each other, and saying that there's not much that they can do. And by the time you get to this, of course, the dome goes down. And we see that he gets his powers back, and he's all happy. He's like, wow, I forgot how great this was. The one thing I did like about this book is I love the narration from Barry Allen. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was great narration, the way the story was told. I just don't like the concept. And then you get to see him on top of a building realizing that there's other cities involved. And by the time you get to the end of it, you wind up seeing that this guy here says that he's a Superman. So I was like, okay, don't know what's going on there, but we'll see what happens. But I'll read it digitally going forward. It was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't the best. It was better than some of the other Convergence books, probably because I'm more familiar with Barry Allen, so obviously it makes sense. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next is Green Lantern Corps Convergence issue number 1. And with this one, same thing. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars because I liked the nostalgia of this book. It reminds you, if you've read the cartoon, or if you watched the cartoon, The Super Friends, it had a lot of that nostalgic feel to it, and that I could appreciate. So it just starts off here where it says Justice League roll call, and you think it's like Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman and Flash, and you get that feeling, that just that, like, man, this is comics, you know. And you find out that it's kids. It's kids pretending to be the superheroes, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And you wind up seeing that these kids were arguing about who was going to be a Green Lantern, and Guy, being that the dome is down up and he doesn't have, you know, powers, he is an actual like gym teacher or whatnot. So you witness that, and Guy's sitting there, he's like, well, why, you know, be somebody else besides Green Lantern, you know? He's like, all right. He's like, I'll be Sinestro. And Guy has this, he freaks out. He's just like, he has this thing because he was in a coma when this whole event was going on. And he blames Hal for ruining his life and whatnot. And he has to have these sessions with Lee Tompkins. And I'm sorry, yeah, Leslie Tompkins. So I was just like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Obviously, I know her from Gotham. That's the only way I know her from. But when I saw her on there, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I was kind of taken back how she's taken as an older person, where in Gotham she's younger. But you get to see the struggles of what Guy goes through, and he blames Hal Jordan for his life. You know, he visits Carol, and Carol winds up, you know, giving some information. Guy as well, being that they got divorced, trying to get back to Oa or make connections with them, and you know, to find some more information. So it was a good issue. I mean, I liked it. This was a good story because I did connect to it, but at the same time, again, repetitious at times, and I was just like, okay, that's fine. And then it kind of ended because Hal was just like, oh, the dome's, you know, gone. So he's like, see you later. So the next thing we wind up finding out is this guy gets on his bike, and that's what happens in the actual issue. So it was okay. I mean, it was better than some of the rest. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to the top 10. And now that all that Convergence crap is out of the way, we go on to the real comic books that cracks that top 10 this week. And number 10 goes to number 48 of Chew. You get to see what happens with some of the main FDA characters in this book. They were doing battle against the Collector. They wound up practically getting just annihilated, and we wound up seeing on the cover that there's this diagram of Sergeant Appleby, and we wind up seeing Caesar, who is an agent, and they wind up getting claws, and he winds up becoming like this Minotaur guy. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And that's how it opens up. You wind up seeing that these guys are back reporting for duty, and they look just like this. And I'm just like, man, that is crazy. But we wind up finding out that Savoy, which is the big guy there, Amelia, which is Tony Chu's wife, and then his daughter, Olive, wind up going out onto this mission. They're going to try to stop the Collector, and Tony Chu tries to find out, you know, trying to get his sister back and whatnot, or his daughter back, and it was a crazy ride. I mean, this is a good book. I've always preached Chew. It's a solid read, very funny. It's gotten serious as of late. We get to see the Collector does business with these guys that are called gelatin guys. You know, they're like Jello guys, and so they can form weapons and things like that out of the different colors of Jello. Just very comical stuff in here. Good artwork. The book always provides, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. We wind up seeing that Olive makes the connection to the Collector, saying that you know, they're going to go after her, and we see Tony wind up making amends with his partner John Colby, because they were on a lot of disagreements for a long time. So good issue, really enjoy it. Each and every month it comes out. Very consistent book. Again, guys, if you ever get a chance to read something, read this in trade. And after reading this, I gave this one a 3.75. I'm waiting for things to really get going here. It's been kind of stalling a little bit, but I think it's going to pick up very shortly. And that was number 10. Next is number 9, which is The Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid, yeah, The Little Mermaid from Zenoscope Entertainment, issue number 3. Another solid book. I just thought there was other books that were really, better than this one, because there were a lot of books. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The book has artwork that you cannot believe in here. I love looking at this book. It's just, you got to look through it like 3 or 4 times. You got the Sea Witch in there with her facial expressions. When she smiles and she gives those expressions, she knows that, she wants something here. And then you get to see, our main character here, that's the Little Mermaid's mom, and the Little Mermaid's name is Erica. And we get to see that in this issue, they're trying to find Erica. And there's a lot of negotiating and talking, and she's trying to get the king of Atlantis to get her to go search for the daughter, and Erica wants to be there with them. So after some long debate, talking about, well, what are you going to want in return, the king feels that there's no choice but to let her help with the matter. Again, great artwork, and then you get to relive some of the history on how these two's relationship started when she was pregnant with with Erica, and then you wind up getting to see how her baby was actually taken away in this issue. So really good in-depth story in here, and then you wind up finding out that Erica, the Little Mermaid, winds up trying to escape the science lab that she's been held captive for God knows how long. She winds up getting recaptured by the guards, but when she gets recaptured, she winds up stealing a key, so she's going to try to escape again. So really good issue. Again, the artwork is probably the most awesome thing in this series. It's so great to look at, and I would suggest reading this book. I think Meredith Finch is doing a very well job in writing this book, and I like. There's some good emotional moments in here too. So after reading this one, again, I gave this one a 4 out of 5. All right, so pushing forward now, we go on to number 8. Number 8 goes to the Inhumans special, issue number 1. I thought this was good. I didn't think this one was going to be as good as the Amazing Spider-Man issue. But it was pretty close, just for different reasons. The Amazing Spider-Man special had featured Spider-Man on there, and he was written so beautifully. He had so much, he was so comical in that issue. And then here, he was funny, but he wasn't nearly as funny because he wasn't the focal point, really. We get this feature on the Inhumans, and you had to go on this guy whose name is Raven, or Red Raven, and he's the Inhuman, like Birdman or whatnot. And I thought the artwork was a little bit off on this book, so that's why I dragged it down. But you get to see a lot of story here about where this Red Raven winged bad guy came from and who he is and what he represents. But when I mean artwork, I didn't like the way Spider-Man was drawn. I didn't like some of the other characters that were drawn here. I wasn't a fan of it. The bird creatures and stuff like that, I was like, oh wow. But then again, you get to see this history and what this floating place was and what it represented, and why this guy does the things that he does. You learn about the backstory of Red Raven, about how he was this guy that crashed into this planet. They made him into one of the species. He wasn't born that way. People looked at him as an outcast. He decided to leave home and become a superhero. And he wound up teaming up with some of the original Marvel characters in the past. And he saved the world and whatnot. And he went back home and he wound up having a life. He wound up getting married. He was idolized. He wound up having babies. And the next thing you wind up finding out is Medusa in this issue kind of didn't want to listen to him. And then he had to tell his story. He had to get it out. You found out that the Terrigen bomb was released, and what happened is this whole species, this form of Inhumans, were disformed and killed. And so that's why he holds it against everybody of where, his people are. Medusa says, we can work together, we can do this, we can do that. And then you wind up seeing that our heroes were falling off the city. They wound up gathering, their senses. They wound up coming to the top of the cliff. Spider-Man constantly makes jokes. The other Inhumans are sitting there going, why do you always make jokes? Why aren't you serious? He goes, because you got to live life to its fullest. He's just like, you got to act that way. He's like, yes, life is full of responsibility, but, you got to have fun at times, and it just puts you in perspective. So I really like the saying that Spider-Man was trying to get at. And then he does take it more seriously. He remembers everybody's names, and they start doing battle. They start trying to get back to the bad guy, Red Raven. And then what happens is Spider-Man winds up falling off this cliff. He's falling, and the next thing you wind up seeing is that Sam Wilson winds up coming to rescue him. And so this book now continues in the All New Captain America? Yeah, an All New Captain America special, issue number 1. So good story, because I liked seeing the origin of this bad guy, and you can't help feel for the guy. And then it talks a lot about Spider-Man, and why he's so funny, and he kind of takes things, for granted at times, or he acts like he does. So I like the story that was presented here. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 7, and number 7 is Star Wars issue number 4. Here we have Darth Vader on the cover. He's on Tatooine. We can see he looks like he's reflecting on things. On this issue, you wind up seeing him go into the hut, to Jabba the Hutt. Once again, we've seen this in his Darth Vader issue. And he was trying to get resources to help the Emperor because of what happened on Sign Moon 1, what happened with the Death Star. And we get to see that, what happened here. This issue really kicks off this story arc. The artwork continues to be really well done here. Chewie and Han Solo are trying to revamp up that Millennium Falcon once again after what happened in the last story arc. We get to see Leia and Mothma, I think that's how you say her name. I'm not sure. But she's trying to convince her that she has her team in place. We got to continue pushing against the Empire. If we don't, they're going to regather their forces and they're going to take over. Luke struggles at being a Jedi. He feels that he's not adequate to be a Jedi, and he feels that he has to find himself. What I liked about this issue, too, is this reminds you of the Han Solo moment in episode 4 when you got Han Solo talking with Greedo in the issue, and then you feel that Greedo, gets killed. And then they kind of play tribute to that, but it's not just one Greedo, it's like 4 of them. It's like their whole pack, and what happens is this person's looking for someone, and, the Greedos sit there and they wind up, pointing the gun at her, and she has this, or him, or whatever it is, and she has this automatic gun that's on the bottom of the table, and it shoots out all those guys' kneecaps. And I thought that was absolutely hysterical. And they wind up trying to get information. They wind up shooting off his hand. That's next. And right before his lips were going to get shot off there, he winds up giving the information because she's looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's what she was looking for here. And Jabba the Hutt here is kind of hanging out with Darth Vader because he feels that he's gotten these resources for Vader, and he feels like Vader owes it to him to kind of just, hang out with him and not just, leave, take your resources and run type of deal. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing that that Boba Fett is looking for somebody as well, and that's obviously, it looks like it was Luke Skywalker at the time, I think, by the time I got to the end of this issue. And Greedo at this point and his family are just like, I don't want nothing to do with it. So it was a very comical moment in a way. So I really enjoyed this issue. It was a good read. The artwork continues to be good, and I feel like this is like the real kickoff to the series. You got that introduction story arc, to get familiar with what Star Wars is, get that Star Wars feel, and now we're going to get going with these future adventures here. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars too. I can't wait to see what happens. All right, next we go on to number 6. And number 6 was another Marvel book, and that was Hulk, issue number 15. In this issue, you get to see Doc Green and Red Hulk Ross go off against each other once again for the final time. And it was an epic battle because in the last issue, you wind up seeing Bruce Banner. He gets knocked out and he's flying across the city or the state or whatever it is, and he keeps telling himself, "Wake up, Hulk! Wake up, Hulk!" And he does just in time before he winds up hitting the ground. And Red Hulk and Doc Green just do this crazy battle. I mean, it just keeps going on and on. It's just punching each other, and just all kinds of shit's happening in this book. I mean, look at this. Chop right to the face, and green blood's coming out. And Hulk's got that yellow blood coming out. I mean, everyone's on fire and shit, and you're just like, man, what's going to happen? And Hulk winds up getting the upper hand in the end. He winds up freaking clocking him right in the face. There's like teeth flying out of him, and he winds up breaking his arm here. I mean, Mark Bagley's artwork here is just absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I love the action scenes. 1-page splash page here, 2-page spreads, just everything here. Just look at the facial expressions. Just so good, so well done. And when he defeats him, he finally injects the cure right into his back. And he winds up going back to normal. And he winds up sending Ross back to jail. And you can feel the tension and the hatred of Ross and how he can't stand him, And so he winds up taking it to the end. And then when he was Hulk, he winds up reading We Need to Talk. So I'm not sure who he was writing that to by the time we get to the end of it. But 1 week later, we wind up seeing that, a whole bunch of Marvel heroes are here to kind of interact with Doc Green. And Doc Green says, "I'm dying." So in this next issue, in the end, it has to deal with Doc Green, Lara. It has to do with, I guess, Maestro, what's going to happen with him. And that's all going to happen in one more issue because this series is ending. Guys, in a way, I hate that Secret Wars is coming because there's certain titles that I really enjoy that are ending, and this is one of them. This is the best Hulk series I have read in so long, and it's ending. And if Hulk is brought back when Secret Wars is over, it's just who's going to be on it, who's going to draw it, and I'm going to miss this book. Really great read. When the trade does come out for this, and it will be called Omega. The Omega Hulk, because he mentions that in here. Guys, go out and buy this in trade. This will be a good read for you. It'll be a pretty fast read because these past couple issues, not much dialogue, but it's a great story. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5. The reason why it wasn't higher, because it was predictable. I had this prediction that Hulk was going to obviously defeat Ross and he was going to cure him. My only thing is what happens at the end of this issue. All right, next we go on to number 5. And number 5 was Manifest Destiny, issue number 14. I just like the originality of this book. The artwork has that feel to it that brings you back to that Lewis and Clark timeline, which I really enjoy. We get to see them always come across these crazy creatures, and something weird always happens to some of the boat members or the crew members on this expedition. You get to see one of the guys, his name is Edison or Edison, and he winds up getting bit by one of these bird creatures. And they're having a hard time getting this creature off. He's like, "Get it off of me." He's like, "I'm freaking get this thing off." And he's like, "Well, I don't want to kill it." And he's like, "I want to do research on it." So they rip it off of him, and you get to see that, and it rips off his arm, and it really does some damage here. So what effect is going to happen to this character? Because they touch on that. And what's her name? Saskatchewan. She's pregnant and she can't fight anymore. She's dealing with lots of morning sickness, so she deals with that. So you get to see what's happening there. And as the issue progresses, you get to see that Lewis and Clark are doing like this experiment on the little creature, the little bird creature, seeing how he eats, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And And as the issue progresses, we wind up finding out that the dog likes him, and he kind of gives a little lick to the face. But that flesh wound that the bird did is getting infected, and the flesh around the character is dying. So it was just like, okay, well, what's going to happen with this guy in the future? So what happens while Lewis and Clark are sleeping, and you get to see the little bird in his cage, you wind up finding out that the parent bird, the mommy, winds up coming and taking one of the crew members, and he winds up dumping him off the ground because I guess he realizes that it took one of its babies or whatnot. So it was crazy. So in the end, Lewis winds up coming up with this crazy thing that they're going to try to find their comrade and go after this creature, whatever it was. And all the other crew members are kind of against it. They're kind of just like, we're tired of this. Every time we do this, something happens. We get killed. He's like, all right, fine. We'll settle this in the best way possible. We're going to fight. Pick somebody. So they pick this guy. And then he winds up sitting there. And he's like, oh, good choice. He's like, let's lay down some of the ground rules. Bullshit. This dude didn't want anything to do with the freaking ground rules. He punches him right in the face. You're like, damn, dude, that's freaking crazy. They really don't want to do this mission. Good book. Really original book. You kind of don't know what's going to happen next. Cliffhangers are always really good because it makes you want to read the book some more. So after reading this one, I give this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 4. Sorry, getting a little tired. A lot of books this week. Number 4 is All New X-Men, issue number 40. Now, maybe some of you might be surprised. Maybe some of you may not. We already knew that Bobby was gay in this issue. It was kind of like, all right, how did they deliver the message? And can you witness or capture those moments, with him? Can you feel sad for Bobby? Can you understand everything that he's going through? And I felt like I did. So I felt that they didn't just say, oh, well, you're gay, and that was it. It's like you can kind of feel the emotion and feel the pain of what Bobby was going through. And the way they did it was really cool. But besides all that, they had this other story in here where they had these expeditionists going to Utopia, and they're trying to like pick it through, and they feel that this stuff is worth lots of money. And you get to see these mystery characters, and you don't know who they are. At least I don't know who they are. And excuse me. And then you wind up going to the whole thing of what happened after the Black Vortex. And you get to see Magic being nice. She's giving everyone cheeseburgers, and they're all eating hamburgers and whatnot. And, Bobby's sitting there, and he tells Magic, she's like, oh, yeah, you're so hot, or something like that. He says something crazy. And then young Jean Grey, and this is young Bobby, he goes, I want to talk to you. And then I like the way they kind of delivered it, because it was paneled, because you can see the emotion on his face that he didn't know what to say and didn't want to admit it. So, she's just sitting there. She goes, I know. And he's like, but, and she's like, He's like, what? And she's just like, come on. And she's like, what? And she's, gives a nod, and he's like, what's happening? He's like, Bobby, you're gay. And he's just like, what? Well, why would you say that? He's like, because I'm a psychic and I can read your thoughts. And he's like, hey, don't do that. And he doesn't want to admit it, and he's very ashamed of it. And it's kind of weird because his older self is not gay. So how does that pan out? That's what I'm not too sure of, and either is he. But right away, he puts up this wall over Jean, and it's literally a wall. I mean, he puts up this ice wall, and he can see he's ashamed about the whole thing. And no one else knows what's going on, and she can see she's trying to have this moment with him and be honest with him. And I like the way they delivered the story, And he gave his feelings and things like that, and they wind up making up, and they wind up being friends, and it was kind of, I thought it was okay. I don't agree with Bobby maybe being gay. I don't know how a young Bobby can be gay and then the older one be straight, but I felt that the story was delivered nicely. I like the way they wound up doing it. And being that it's the younger versions, I guess it kind of makes sense than it would be the older versions. So, and then you get to see another moment in here with the newly reformed Angel and X-23, Laura. And it feels like that he needed a change because he saw his future self and he went through a lot of shit. And he says that in here. And he really wants to be with Laura, and he feels and he knows everything that she's gone through, and he says, for that I love you, and it looks like that they care for each other too. And you know what? For all the slack that this issue was getting of why Bendis can make Bobby gay and things like that, and I said it myself too. I didn't think it was the right way, but sometimes it's true. Read the whole issue, and then you might appreciate it for what it is. And then at the end of the issue, you get to see what happens with these characters on Utopia. You come across these guys. So I don't know who those guys are. I'm not sure if you guys do. Leave me in the comments below what you think. But I thought it was very mysterious at the end, and I liked it. But I liked the overall story, and I thought it was pretty good. We'll see what happens in the future with him, being gay or whatnot. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. It's just interesting to see why they did it. So I liked the issue. After reading it, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really well told story. I thought it was very emotional. All right, so now we go on finally to the top three. Top three. Number 3. And I'm sorry for the long countdown this week, but it is a 18-week comic. Comic week. And that number 3 was The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 17.1. This book was good too. I like this one. The first one was a good introduction to all these street level characters that we haven't seen. Really brought Spider-Man back down to earth. And this issue, it continues this way. The artwork is really well done. We get to see some gambling stuff going on between Goblin King and Hammerhead. They're doing some cage match fighting in here, and we get to see that throughout the issue. And we get to see that Appleby trying to, Appleby wannabe, she's trying to figure out, which is the Wraith, trying to figure out this whole crime scene, this whole crime lord thing of what's going on. She goes and she interviews that judge that wound up being convicted of drug possession. He sits there and he denies the whole thing, says he's giving it to his wife because of, she's in pain and she needs the drugs. And, wannabe has nothing, she wants nothing to do with that. She feels that he's guilty. And then throughout the issue, you wind up seeing Mr. Negative giving information to Wannabe about where the next cage fight is going to happen, and all this high dollar, gambling stuff is going to go on. And when we find out that Hammerhead's, fighter can't go in the cage, he winds up fighting himself, and I thought that was pretty cool too. And he's always gnawing on something. I don't know what he's chewing on gum or whatever it is. He winds up fighting, and the next thing you wind up seeing is the Wraith and Spider-Man wind up coming into battle here. And I thought that was great fight scenes in here. Again, great artwork in the book as well. And by the time you wind up getting into the end of this book, we wind up seeing that Spider-Man defeats him, and there's Mr. Negative hanging in there. So it looks like with these crime guys, these crime lord guys, it looks like that they're all jockeying for position to become the next Kingpin. The thing is that it's like Mr. Negative is all quiet and secretive about it, just tipping off Wannabe. And she even says, she goes, well, why are you doing this? And she's, he goes, you got to have your reason. And he goes, well, we all have our reasons, and it kind of ended. I love the story here. I love the artwork. I love the character interactions between these all these crime lord bosses like Goblin King and Hammerhead and all these guys that you haven't seen for a while. And I'm really interested to see what the next issue has to offer for its readers. I think it's really well done story, and I am enjoying this much more than I ever did with Spider-Verse. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4 3/4 stars. All right, we're moving on to the top 2, and the number 2 book of the week goes to The Black Vortex Omega. You guys might be surprised. I don't know if you've been continuing to read this, but this is a really well done book. This was a great conclusion to this event. It really shows, if you haven't read it, it gives you a nice little description of what happens in the event at this point. And if you want to read this in trade, I'm sure the trade will be out shortly, and I think you guys will really enjoy this book. Paco Medina does the artwork. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed McGuinness does the artwork in this one, and Sam Humphries is the writer. And we get to find out, again, what happens with Spardex. We find out that the Brood's getting ready to lay eggs in all of the civilians' heads, and then the Brew's population is going to go up 100,000%, and it's crazy. We learn like again about all our superpowered beings from the Black Vortex here. So it's a good little summary of what was going on, and the narration was done by Kitty Pryde. And Kitty Pryde submits herself to the Black Vortex in order to try to save Spartax. And when you see her, you wind up seeing that she's part of the entire universe. And we get to see that when she first submits to it, she winds up seeing other versions of herself from different timelines. She sees all kinds of things here. And then we wind up seeing that Ronan's all pissed off because his planet dies. He blames the X-Men. He blames the Guardians. He blames everybody. And he's like, I judge you all. And he's going to do battle against everybody. But as the issue continues, we wind up finding out that Kitty Pryde comes back. She regains her senses, and she phases the planet out, and she saves the planet from the Brood taking it over, and she winds up crushing the fake planet now, which became a hollow planet, or whatever it is. And we get to see her face here as she's all happy, and Spartak is saved, and and we get to see that she's here, and this is what she looks like as her pure like cosmic form. And as a reader here, you got like, wow, that's really some powerful shit right there. She can do whatever she wants in the cosmic universe, and she winds up bringing herself back down. She winds up, not being submissive to it to the extent where she realizes how powerful she is. And at the end of this issue, you wind up seeing that our heroes are given a choice if they want to revert back to themselves. However, you wind up finding out that some of them don't want to change back, and some of them do. Now they wind up changing back. If you do, there's going to be something different about you, whether it's physical or something on the inside, and they're warned about that. So they wind up taking a chance. So Beast winds up changing back, Groot winds up changing back, Bobby winds up changing back. And we wind up seeing this, and you can see there's a little transformations of what happened, and then there's the stuff that goes on the inside of our characters. I think what happens with the whole Black Vortex thing, and so by the time we get to the end of it, everyone's all happy and go lucky, and then you wind up seeing Kitty. She winds up keeping her form. She winds up keeping to herself. She stays cosmic. And I guess maybe she feels a better connection that way. I was surprised she did stay that way as a cosmic form. And you wind up seeing that Peter Quill proposes to her. So now that they're going to be a married couple. So I thought that was interesting as well. And I think the book did a nice job at wrapping this whole event up. The mirror is taken away. You wind up seeing what happens with Thane. You wind up seeing what happens to Quill's father. You get to see it all wrapped up, and it didn't seem like it was rushed. And then there was a happy celebration at the end with the engagement of the two characters. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, and then it just came to the end. And I thought it was great. I thought this was a good event overall. I thought this was very underrated. I never expected it to be this good. For me, it was a consistent event. It wasn't forced. The only thing I could say about this is like everything wound up working out a little bit too perfectly. Once Kitty got submitted to the Vortex mirror, but it was okay. And then there's the two filler issues that were in here. So I felt that this could have been maybe 2 issues shorter, and then it would have been perfect. Because there was that one week where they released 3 issues in 1 week. If you take away 2 of those issues, this whole event would have been released in a perfect format. So, again, I recommend this in trade. So, after reading this one, I give this one a 4.75 as well. So, next, last but not least, the book that got number 1 for me. Maybe for some people, if you did like Black Vortex, it could be reversed. But I thought this was a good follow-up issue. And before you read this issue, you have to read Black Vortex. Because if you read Black Vortex, if you read this first, it's going to give away what happens in Black Vortex. So you got to read that issue first, and a little bit of what happened in X-Men, because certain situations obviously happened in that issue that played off of X-Men too with Bobby. So you have Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 26 that gets #1 pick of the week this time around. Reason being is that this, I feel, for the first time, that there is a direction of where Guardians is going. Peter Quill now has a fiance. You feel the character really start to struggle here because he's been elected president or king of Spartax. And you see the confliction within the character because he's so used to his ways of kind of being against the law or being on the verge of it, and then him being part of the system, he has a hard time comprehending that, and he doesn't want to lose what he has. And you get to witness that throughout this entire issue with the struggles that he has. You wind up seeing that Gamora is still in her cosmic form. We get to see the little changes that happens with Groot in here. He looks more like a little bit of a humanized form. There were some funny moments in this issue here where he was talking to Kitty Pryde, and then you get some random drunk chick that sits there and throws up a frog, and he's looking at it hop away. So there were some really comical moments there. And then again, you get to see him taken by the royal guards and saying, we have to escort you because you're king-elect or president-elect right here. And we get to see the people are cheering for him. And he is completely overwhelmed about the entire situation. And he doesn't know what to do. So by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing Kitty Pryde scene where, you know, she would stay. You get to see Groot and Gamora being kind of at peace with themselves. So it's like things look like they're kind of working out, and maybe Peter's kind of thinking about what's happening. And we wind up seeing, you know, a certain situation that's happening with Eddie Brock in here too, as well, as he maybe might want to make a call to Earth. But then all of a sudden, as certain things are happening, and discussions are going on about Peter's future, there seems to be this rumbling, like this earthquake, and something is happening. And by the time you get to the very last page of this issue, you wind up seeing this. So is this the incursion about to happen over on planet Earth, and they're actually seeing that? I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's what it is. And you see kind of everything just kind of blowing up at itself. So really interesting stuff. I like this issue. The reason why, again, it gets #1 for me is because this was, for me, for the first time, one of the first times, Guardians felt like a complete book. And there was finally some real character development here, where it comes to, again, Kitty Pryde and Peter, you know, being engaged to be married, him being president-elect, what's going on with the other characters, the confliction, the whole incursion situation. I just felt that this book finally had depth, and it was a good book to read right after Black Vortex, which I did when it went hand in hand together nicely. So that's why I wound up getting these became issue #1 and #2 for me, and then that Utopia issue was like a close #4 because they kind of all connected in a way. So again, this one, I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. So guys, there's your countdown for the week. Sorry it was a lengthy one, probably the longest one ever, but it was 18 comics, and I wanted to get everything in, let you guys know what these stories were about, my thoughts about some of these books. And guys, tell me your comments below on what your favorite comic book of the week was, what your worst comic book of the week was, all the other stuff in between. And again, fan, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until the next comic book review, fans, this is Mike Spider signing off. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.